Good morning. Happy Sabbath to you as well. It's nice to see all of you and also new faces as well. It has been a while, Rudy, since we have seen each other. Praise God, this morning we're here with wealth, health, and many other blessings. I'm going to be using the whiteboard, if you don't mind. That's my PowerPoint presentation. The title of the presentation this morning, the first one, is Anarchy. I'll tell you why in a minute. So with that in mind, I'm going to write right here what is not right. Can you see at all? What does it say? Republic. There you go, you can see. All right. Second one? Yeah, you're right. Okay. Third one? All right. Doing well so far. Fourth one? Anarchy. Last one. Anarchy. These are the 5 ways of governing. You have a republic, number 1, then democracy, oligarchy, monarchy, and then anarchy. What is the meaning of a republic? Yeah. That's right. Let's make it plural. Then democracy. Uh-huh. All right. Just to give you an example. Monarchy. If you had 2 lions and 1 gazelle deciding on what is for dinner, the final decision of that one. Okay? That's what democracy is. Or you have 2 wolves and 1 chicken deciding what the dinner is going to be. All right? Then oligarchy. Just few people governing. Okay? Monarchy. One person ruling. Okay? And then anarchy. No one rules. Okay? With this in mind, Now let's go to history and as well as Bible prophecy. Because the Bible says that a time is coming when there will be anarchy, right? But before anarchy takes place, there has to be, first of all, what? A republic. That republic eventually becomes a democracy. And then the democracy becomes oligarchy. And then from there we go to monarchy. This is paper rule. One man ruling the world. Right? That's what the Bible says also. And eventually, every time that we have a democracy and then oligarchy and monarchy, we end up with a revolution. We call that anarchy. And that's where not just the United States, but every nation practically around the world is heading into. Now, we see why it's so important for the people of God to understand the times that we're living in. Right now, we're right here. It's no longer a democracy. Just to give you an example, if it would have been a democracy, Trump would be in the White House. Right? But it's no longer a democracy. You have a few people running the show. And the people running the show are not in the White House, by the way. They are not in Congress either. They are not in the Supreme Court either. They are puppets. You have more powerful people, much powerful people behind the scenes pulling the strings, if you know what I mean. Whether it's a decision on the Supreme Court, whether it's an executive order by the president, or just any law enacted by Congress. You have a few people telling the world what to do. Now, we're right here, but we're moving closer and closer to monarchy. The time when the papacy will have the same power, actually even more power than it did during the Middle Ages. Because at that time, the papacy will be helped, aided by the Protestants, by the Hindus, by the Buddhists, by the Muslims, by the atheists, and you name it. Every institution in the world, in the entire world, will come under the control of the monarchy. And as you can tell, eventually the people are not going to be happy with the king, if you know what I mean. Because God is going to lay open all the sins of Babylon. And the people who are going to do that work is you and I. We need to tell the world what they have no idea of. If you talk to the people around us, they will say, well, we're not happy with the government. But they don't know who's running the people in government. We do. Some people might say, well, the United Nations. Or perhaps secret societies. And you know what? They have a point. But they don't know that behind the United Nations, by the way, the United Nations is a front organization for the papacy. It's not working for any country. It's moving an agenda that favors the papacy. It's a globalist agenda. And it's a socialist, a Marxist, and progressive agenda. When it was established, 1945, way before our time, right? It was established so there will be no more wars. Has that been the case? The opposite. More war than ever. So we see that the United Nations is just a front organization. How about WHO? World Health Organization. That's another front organization for the papacy. How about the Monetary Bank? Yes. How about the International Economic Forum? Another front organization for the monarchy. So people can say, well, that organization is not a good one, and this one is not good, and that other one is not good, but they don't know there's another organization behind it. And we're here to tell them who they are. And eventually, and we can see it already, God is going to lay open all the sins of Babylon. So everybody, every single human being on planet Earth will make an informed and educated decision. They're not going to be blind. They're not going to be ignorant. They have two sides, and they have to decide what side they're going to be on. And the only way is by knowing what this organization is all about and knowing what the other organization, God's people, are all about. You can see, for example, that the pedophilia cases, thousands of them. You see what happened in Canada with the native people of Canada. They were killed, babies, children, thousands of them, removed from the parents by force. So they would be made Catholics, and they would know English. Now it's coming out. They were buried. No idea where they were until now. Do you think that is coincidence? It's not. There is a God that is leading the human affairs. And he's sitting on the throne of the universe. And he knows when is the time to bring things up. How about the scandal in the bank at the Vatican? Millions, well, actually billions of dollars has disappeared. And you and I know that money does not disappear. Money goes from one account to another account. So somebody, or perhaps a group of people, have a lot more money now than before. But we don't know the whole story yet. We just know some of it. But the only way that the papacy can take control of the world is if there is no republic. That's why the devil, which is the mastermind behind the papacy and the secret societies and all the other institutions in the world, and every evil person, is the mastermind. He has been working at destroying the republic. Not just this one, every other one on planet Earth. Where was the Reformation born? In Germany, right? Is Germany a Protestant nation today? No. How about England? The European country where the Reformation took its deepest root. Is England a Protestant nation today? No. How about the USA? That's where the Protestant principle really flourished. But more than in any other country in the world. Is this nation a Protestant nation today? No. I could be giving you more examples. So for decades, perhaps centuries, the devil has been working to destroy every republic. The Reformation did away with the monarchy, right? Yes. How about with the few people running? He did away with that too. And even with democracy. That's what the Reformation did. The Reformation established republics. And the papacy is undoing every republic, hoping that eventually we'll have the entire control and power of the world. And the Bible prophecy says the time is coming when that will be the case. I'm not saying everybody will be under the control of the papacy, because there will be people who follow God no matter what. But for the most part, and for sure every nation and every institution will be under the control of the monarchy or the papacy. When the people find out what happened, they're not going to be happy. They're going to be very upset. This book says what? What's the title of it? Okay. Was written by the president of the International Economic Forum. It's a German man, very wealthy. And he's saying that it's time to use this pandemic, or plandemic, as I call it, to reset the entire world. So what has been happening since March 2020 is something that has been planned. And when you plan something so big, you don't plan it the night before. It takes years. And it takes wealthy, well-connected people. Because money is equal to power. So you have to have the people with money on board to follow your agenda. And as you see around, the wealthiest institutions and organizations around the world are 100% in agreement with this agenda. Whether it's Facebook, Amazon, eBay, Twitter, Google, Ford, GM, Apple, you name it. All those very wealthy institutions with a lot of power and with a lot of people working for them are following this global agenda right now. Because they are using this crisis to undo what it was left, the little bit that was left of what? Of the Republic. This week, on Wednesday, if I remember right, that was the 14th, right? Another anniversary happened of the French Revolution. In France, they call it Bastille Day. That's when the people stormed the fortress of Bastille in the outskirts of Paris, and they took over that institution, of that fortress. That was 1789, if you want the date. July 14, 1789. At that time, there was another revolution taking place. Not over there in Europe, over here. So you have two revolutions going on. One established a republic. The other one ended up in anarchy. Are you with me so far? Because I see some of you kind of, what is he saying? So how could it be that even though the two revolutions were pushing for liberty, because that was the title of the French Revolution, and that was also the title of the American Revolution, liberty. One end up with a wonderful republic, and the other one end up in anarchy. I mean, in history, it's known as the reign of terror. That's how bad it was. People were dying left and right. And instead of having a republic, you have anarchy. How could that be? Well, let's think of that for a minute. France was a Protestant nation, right? No, France was not a Protestant nation. France rejected the Reformation. It came to France, not just one time, many times, and every single time the monarchy joined with the papacy, rejected the principles of the Reformation. In the American Revolution, you had a nation that was Protestant, right? It was at that time. What is a Protestant? It's a Bible-believing person. So a nation established on Bible or godly principles is what? It's a republic. That's why the Declaration of Independence says, God created all men equal. So who had the credit? God did. He made us, number one, and He gave us rights, right? And those rights cannot be taken away. France, being a Catholic country, and what is a Catholic, by the way? It's a church-believing person. Whatever the church says, that's what I do. That's what I believe. That's what a Catholic is. So a nation established on the opinion of men, even though they might mean well, is going to create what? Anarchy. What is the first law of heaven? Order. Right? What is the first law of Satan's kingdom? No order. You do whatever you want to do. Anytime you want to do it, any way you want to do it, anyone you want to do it with. You decide. For a Christian, that's not the case. For a Christian, God decides. He says, He teaches, we believe, that's what we do. That's why you have a republic on this one, and then in France you have anarchy. Just about the same time. 1776, 1789. July, both the 4th one and the 14th, the other one. Close. Interesting. France was the first nation that acknowledged America as a nation. Not only that, people from France came over to help the Americans, and Americans were over there to help the French. They were friends, allies, but two different mindsets. That's why you had a nation that it was a republic, and you had another nation that was anarchy, chaos. As America moves away from his Protestant principles and Republican principles, what has been happening to the Republic has disappeared. If you listen to the news, they talk about what? Democracy. like it's a good thing. And people fall for it. Oh yeah, democracy is good. I remember in the 80s, 1980s, when the people over in Eastern Europe were becoming free people again. And they were doing away with the communists in power. And I remember the people celebrating in Berlin when the wall came down. They were saying, now we're free. The government of Germany has given us freedom. And I was listening to the news and I said, that's not a good news. That's not good news. The government that is powerful enough to give you freedom is powerful enough to remove your freedoms too. So you don't know what you're saying, Germans. You might be happy tonight. You might be celebrating tonight. But a time is going to come when the same government will do away with the freedoms that day one gave you. That's why it's important that we understand that we are right here, friends, moving closer and closer to monarchy. And also in the process, moving closer and closer to what? Chaos. There will be another civil war in the United States. Imagine. Reading from the book, The Great Controversy. Just want to read to you a couple of statements. And it says the Protestants, who? World, will, there's no doubt about that, will learn what the purposes of Rome really are. So a time is coming when the American people will wake up. The Canadians will wake up. The Mexicans will wake up. The Germans will wake up. Only when it is too late to escape this snare. Are the people going to wake up? Yes. When? When it's too late to escape this snare. That's why eventually we're going to have what? Anarchy. Today, yes, today, tomorrow, people are buying guns left and right. Yeah, especially around here. I have neighbors that have plenty of them, all kinds of them. They are buying ammo. And what are those for? Playing? Target shooting? No. No. That's why, even though they're doing away with every principle of the Constitution, which is Protestant and Republican, they are not doing away completely with the Second Amendment. They tried. And Satan knows that eventually there will be what? And for a war to take place, you have to have what? You have to have weapons. And even though the White House is controlled by the leftists, the Marxists, the socialists, Congress too, the Supreme Court as well, they are holding the Second Amendment to some degree. Because the devil wants the people to have something to fight a war. Stones will not do it. Swords will not do it. They need weapons. And it's interesting because just about every decision that is made by the government goes against the Constitution. However, even though they try to do away with the Second Amendment, it's still there. because civil war is coming. I continue my reading. It says Rome is silently growing into power. So who is in charge? Rome. Do people know that? They don't. They believe that Biden is running the show. Or Trump before him. Or Obama before him. Or Bush before. That's not the case. All that he desires is vantage ground. And this is already being given her. 1888, not to 2021. 1888. Already, Rome have what? Vantage ground even in America. At that time, America was Protestant. But they were already in a position to take control of the nation. It says, we shall soon see and shall feel what the purpose of the Roman element is. See, that's in the future. Whoever shall believe and obey the word of God will thereby incur reproach and persecution. So what I want you to see once again is that the republic is gone. They talk about democracy. That's not true either. That's where we are. Interesting, even the president, the current president, a few times he has said, I don't know if they're going to let me do that. Could he be telling the truth? At least once. They're not going to be happy if I do that. Who are they? So today we have the ideals of the French Revolution going worldwide. Just about every nation you see is in turmoil. It's not just this one. If you listen to the news, chaos all over the place. So I want to read to you a statement, once again, same book, that tells us why anarchy took place in France. Says it was popery. What was what? That had begun the work which atheism was completing. So who and did France? Popery. The policy of Rome has wrought out those conditions, social, political, and religious, that were hurrying France on to ruin. So where are we going to? Where are we hurrying into? Ruin. Friends, we're not away from a time when this nation will be a third world country. Instead of people coming into the United States, people are going to be going out of the United States. You might be saying, oh, are you making that up? No. Who likes to live in chaos and ruin? Nobody. Even the secular people in high position in Wall Street, in government, are telling us that we're just one step away from economic collapse. They're telling us. I don't know if you're paying attention. If you're not, you should. And we need to prepare for it. Writers, in references to the horrors of the revolution, said that these excesses are to be charged upon the throne and the church. In a strict justice, they are to be charged upon the church of Rome. So who caused the anarchy, the chaos, the reign of terror in France? Rome. And what's going to happen in America? History will repeat again. You kind of see that already happening. What happened last summer in the big cities of America? Good place to be from, right? Looting, burning, destroying private property, killing, injuring people, no law, no order. And that's just a pale reflection of what is going to happen eventually, not just in the cities of America, in all the cities around the world. And the power behind them is the same power that created chaos in France, to the point of creating a reign of terror. I know what that is because I'm being from Cuba, a communist country, and Cuba is in the news nowadays. People are trying to set themselves free from the communists. I don't know if God is going to allow it or not. I'm hoping that He will. But there will be a lot of bloodshed before that's a reality. And I wondered many times, and I think, how could it be that the American people are embracing the same ideology? How could that be? When you have history, time after time after time, every single nation, country, government that have embraced the principle of Marx and Lenin and the atheists has been a complete failure. A complete failure. And now you have people here in America pushing for it like it's a big deal. And it's the solution to the crisis that we're facing. I don't know if they are blind, or perhaps they have been trained, educated by the Jesuits. How can you say that? I read it to you. I'm not making things up. Says the gospel would have brought to France the solution to those political and social problems that baffled the skill of her clergy, her king, and her legislators, and finally plunged the nation into anarchy and ruin. That's what I'm talking about. So the gospel, what is the gospel? It's a Bible-believing person. We believe what God says in His Word would have made a big difference in France. But nobody was willing to listen. Continue reading. It says, with the flight of the Huguenots That's French Protestants. A general decline settled on France. So when the Reformation was rejected and the Protestants were kicked out of the country, what happened to the nation? Settled, declined upon the nation. Flourishing manufacturing cities fell into decay. That's already happening in America, by the way. You had 285 cities. They wrote a letter to the president, says, we have no money. We need money, Mr. Biden. We need money. We don't have money. Send us money, otherwise we're going to go under. That's one city, Detroit. That's went under. If you call 911, it would take 57 minutes for the ambulance to get to your house. By that time, I don't need an ambulance. It's too late. I'm dead. Even the police department says if you come into the city, you come on your own risk. That's Motown, if you know what I mean. What the automobile industry used to be. It's broke. It's broke. It says fertile districts returned to the native wildness. So people were not growing food anymore. Intellectual dullness and moral declension succeeded a period of unwanted progress. It was a time when the nation was flourishing and going forward and moving forward and flourishing. It came a time when it was the opposite, going down, 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 down. Paris, capital city, became one vast almshouse, and it is estimated that at the breaking out of the revolution, 200,000 paupers claimed charity from the hands of the king or the government. From a wealthy nation to a poor nation. Imagine 250,000 people begging in the streets of Paris. And the king was giving them some, perhaps just enough to make it. That's happening right now. Right now you have 62 million Americans receiving food stamps. 1 out of 5. 1 out of 5. Right now. And we're still doing well. We're not broke. Well, we're almost there, but the Jesuits, this is what the book says. That's not what I'm saying. Alone flourished in the decaying nation. So who was behind the anarchy in France? And who is behind what is happening right now in the US? The same people. They were flourishing. They were doing very well. However, the nation was going downhill. Listen. They ruled with dreadful tyranny. Who was ruling France, actually? The Jesuits. And how were they ruling? Dreadful tyranny. No mercy. No mercy. Over churches? Over what? Churches? Could it be that all the churches in America have been infiltrated? And perhaps taken over by the elements of Rome? Yes. Every one of them. That's why America is not Protestant anymore. They infiltrated the colleges, universities, seminaries. They trained the new ministers, new thinking, open mind, new times. We need to change. We need to be friendly to the youth and the worldly people coming into the church. We have to get with the agenda, the ecology, and so forth. And schools. So who is teaching our children? For the most part, Rome. Even in private and Christian institutions. The prisons and the galleys. They had complete control of the nation. And the nation was becoming hell. But in the process, they were flourishing and doing very well. I just want to come to the end of this presentation this morning, but I want to read a statement from Spirit of Prophecy. It says, some grievous troubles will arise among nations. Troubles that will not cease until Jesus comes. So all the nations will see what? Trouble. And they will not cease. They will continue to rise until Jesus comes. It says the judgments of God are in the land. The words and rumors of wars. The destruction by fire and flood said clearly that the time of trouble, which is to increase until the end, is very near at hand. That was 120 years ago, by the way. We have no time to lose. The world is steered with the spirit of war. So I want to encourage you this morning, by the grace of God, to see that Jesus coming is just around the block. And even though anarchy will take place, it's not going to be pretty. There will be bloodshed, riots, destruction, chaos, government out of control. Imagine since the COVID-19 crisis began, the government has spent more money that they spent during World War I, World War II, the Korean War, the Vietnam War, and every other war since World War I. In just a year and 3 months. Right now, as we speak, they are pushing in Congress a legislation to have an infrastructure bill. $6 trillion. $6 trillion. That's outrageous. But you know how they work? They work, they say, well, we're not going to have the $6 trillion bill, we're going to have one that is $3.5 trillion. It's a compromise. It's a conservative version of the bill. Still, it's outrageous. In the last 6 months, since the new president took over 1 million people have come into the U.S. illegally. And they're receiving more benefits than the American people, than the citizens of the nation. Don't forget, they come with nothing. They don't know the language, they have no skills for the most part. So they're receiving more benefits that the American citizens are receiving. Friends, eventually we have to go broke. I mean, we're printing money, but what are we doing by printing money? We're devaluing the value of the dollar. The buying power of the dollar is disappearing just about every day. Inflation is high again, so is unemployment. You have 34 million people that lost their jobs. 34 million people. There was no need for that at all. That was created with the only idea in mind of destroying what was left of the American nation. If there was a time when we need to pray for people in power, it's now. We have been told, the book tells us, that many of the people in government are agents of Satan. They know what they're doing. They're following an agenda. They know what they're doing. However, it says there are some people who are not. And God will use them, says, to give us a little time of freedom. A little time to do the work that we have not done in good times. And praise God for those people. That's why I said we need to pray for those who are in power. Even if we disagree with them 100%. We're not here to be political at all. We're not here to be Democrats or Republicans, friends. There are no difference. For the most part, they are about the same people pushing the same agenda. That's why we need more than ever the grace of God to transform us. That's why we need the grace of God to make us as Jesus is. Because a difficult time is coming, and the only way to make it through it is if we have that character. If we become impatient, if we lie, steal, become angry, and so forth, it's a sign that we're not ready yet. Even though we might know all of this, we know what's going on, which is good, we need to, there's still an inner work in us that has to take place to prepare us for what is coming. That's why we need time with Jesus every day. That's why we need to humble ourselves before Him and ask Him to make us as He is and to give us the beautiful character that He has, and so we can reflect that glory of God, and the people around the world will see who the true Christians are. And it's a privilege for you and for me to be part of the group. May God bless us this morning.